Mastering Techniques continued. So continuing on, we are going to add a limiter plugin, and we're going to use the Waves L1 Ultra Maximizer. And this plugin, basically, we take and put the ceiling at negative 0.1, and we are never going to go red on our level meter. So let's listen to it now. And as we decrease the threshold, it's going to increase the gain. Now we can make it appear louder. So this is that loudness, we're hearing in averages sort of deal, that as we turn down those peaks, we bring up the lower levels, our average is getting higher. Now the way to see that is, let's add the Analyzer plugin. And now we can actually watch, because remember, this right here is the average. See that average increases there, and it appears to be louder. Let's see, we're never going over zero. We were really close to zero before. I mean, here our peak is still, negative 0.01. And notice how now we start to hear some distortion there. So we want to just add a little bit of limiting. Just make it louder. And then finally, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put a fade at the end. Because like I said, we just let everything go. And we can decide how long we want to make it go for. So here's our fade. And the important thing here is that we're fading after all of this processing. So by fading after the processing, we are doing it after all this limiting has occurred. If we fade before the limiter, it's going to function kind of weird, because the limiter is still going to be trying to act upon it as it's getting softer. And so the best thing to do is to fade afterwards. Now we can also adjust when it actually ends. We'll make that fade start a little later. You can take and move that up a little bit. Make that fade a little bit more gradual. That's pretty nice there. Now let's take a listen. Okay, and then finally, we have, with the L1 Ultra Maximizer, we have what's called dither, and we can't really go into too great of detail on what dither is, but basically what it is, it's helping us go from 24 bits to either 20 bits or 16 bits, and 16 bits in this case to get to a CD. And what's going to happen is when we make that change with our lower level audio, so mainly when we're fading out here at the end, we can get noise and errors as the level goes down. So what dither is basically doing is it's helping us so that that noise is somewhat masked out and not as noticeable. And so it does a couple things with adding some noise to it, actually, to help us mask that noise. And there's some shaping where we add noise differently depending on frequency, more noise in the high and the low frequency and less in the mids, and those seem to help it better, whereas the none is just noise even along the whole frequency range. And so we can change it to what we want, and when we're done, we simply mix this down in the same kind of process we did before, and we send it to be burned on a CD.